Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how we doing today?
It's always a good week when we know what's coming up.
Oh,
This
man.
is it. It's game one.
It's Ravens-Steelers week, and we have a lot to talk about. But first, before we get into any of that, let's move into our Week 13 recap, starting with the Thursday night game of the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. 24-10 was the final. Buffalo coming away with the win. Your thoughts on that game?
That was more clear-cut, better team won. But again, Josh Allen's playing hurt. I don't like the way he throws that long ball. That long ball is hard to watch right now.
Yeah, it definitely limits their offense. They shouldn't be throwing the long ball as much, but we're going to be seeing a lot more Devin Singletary as the season goes on while Buffalo establishes a running game. But New England, hey, they're fighting for that final wild card spot.
Yes, they are. New England is still in the fight. Everyone's still statistically in the hunt in the AFC right now.
You know who could theoretically still get the wild card? The Steelers.
Yes, I understand that.
And the Steelers came away with a solid win over the Atlanta Falcons, 19-16. It was not a pretty win, but a win's a win.
Yeah, no, we will get into Pittsburgh and how they have put together a good little stretch of games. A 2-game win streak. We are definitely showing a lot of progress since our Week 9 bye week.
I know, and the Steelers are looking a lot better since their bye week, and we'll talk more about them as this show goes on. But let's move on to Detroit, where the Detroit Lions put up a 40-burger on the Jacksonville Jaguars, 40-14. Man, the Lions are a different team at home.
They are so funny. They're such a funny team. It's like as soon as you think they're going to roll over, they come out and punch someone straight in the teeth, and they absolutely trounced Jacksonville. It's unbelievable what they did.
It was an impressive showing by the Lions, and they're a very hard-fought team who are, again, still alive for a playoff spot. So let's move on to the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. This was a game that we talked about last week with the return of Deshaun Watson, and the Browns ultimately won 27-14. But it was that Cleveland Browns defense and special teams getting 3 touchdowns to aid them in the win.
Yep. Shout out Donovan Peoples-Jones for a punt return for a touchdown. But you and I were kind of talking about this off air. The Cleveland Browns won this game in spite of Deshaun Watson. They did not win because of him. He did not play well. But that's kind of considered having not played in 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years of not playing is a long time in the NFL. But let's move on to my Baltimore Ravens getting the win over the Denver Broncos, 10-9, but at a cost. It hurt Lamar, and he's going to be hurt going forward this season. We'll discuss more about him and his status going forward. But man, ugly win, but a win's a win.
Ugly isn't really the word. Denver has an unbelievable defense. Can't believe they held you, but I gotta wish Lamar Jackson speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
It was a sprained PCL, I believe, and I think as of right now that takes people usually from 1 to 3.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about that as the episode goes on. But let's move on to a player that just doesn't care about playing hurt in Aaron Rodgers. This man is broken, but yet he still wins over the Bears. 28-19. He came away with 3 scoring drives in a row in the second half and just put the nail in the coffin. And this man's broken, but he's like, I still own the Bears.
Yeah, he said he still owns the Bears, and shout out to that one receiver who got all 3 of those touchdowns. His name,
Christian Watson.
Yes. Seems like Aaron Rodgers found a little trust in the young boy.
Took a little time.
Took a little bit, but he found someone to trust, and that's something to watch out for.
Absolutely. So let's move on to Minnesota, where the Vikings took care of business over the Jets, 27-22. Hey, Jets still played well with Mike White.
Jets are tough. They bought into Mike White, Minnesota. They're just on a tear. They are a clear-cut. They're a Super Bowl contender in this league as of right now. The Jets are arguably a playoff team. They kept it a lot closer than Minnesota wanted.
Absolutely. So let's move on to a team that absolutely blew them out. The Philadelphia Eagles against the Tennessee Titans, 35-10. Jalen Hurts with 3 touchdowns, 350 yards. An incredible game. The Eagles are so dominant. And we talked about this last week where it's like, hey, both teams are going to be able to stop the run, and they ultimately did. But the Eagles said, no, we get past too.
Right. They said we're lethal in more than one way on our offense. Shout out A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. It's such a disgusting receiving core for an unbelievable quarterback in the league. Philly is, in my opinion, as of right now, they should be everyone's Super Bowl favorite. They look. No one can beat them as of right now, from what it seems.
They look like the most complete team in the league, and it's going to be exciting seeing Philadelphia going forward because they have some interesting divisional matchups to play with. Next week they play the Giants, who this past week tied with the Washington Commanders 20-20. Our second tie of the year.
Second tie of the year, and really it throws a monkey wrench in the mix that it was a divisional game. A divisional tie is rough, especially when you have to play each other one more time. So whoever wins gets that tiebreaker. And we were talking last week how there's a chance that the NFC East all makes the playoffs. That could see someone out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough, but it's going to make a very interesting playoff race going forward. Let's move on to what we thought was going to be the game of the week, but it got a lot of publicity for all the wrong reasons, and that was the San Francisco 49ers getting it done over the Miami Dolphins, 33-17, but at the cost of Jimmy G.
Yep, broken foot. He is out for the rest of the year. Again, wish on a speedy recovery. Hope to see you next year. But my God, you haven't had a clean year since the Super Bowl run. Time to start thinking of your life after the sport.
Yeah, but I know Jimmy G, he probably still has a little bit more in the tank. But this is probably going to be his last game in a 49ers uniform. They're going to move on to Trey Lance next year, and there's going to be teams that want Jimmy G to play for them. But we'll talk about that more as it gets on in the offseason. There's going to be a lot of different offseason moves, so we're going to have a lot to talk about in that area. But you know who's a team that actually had a lot of offseason moves this past offseason? The Seahawks. And the Seahawks got it done over the Rams 27-23. And I got to say, the Seahawks are one of the most impressive teams this year because we expected very little from them this year. And they made all the right offseason moves.
Yeah, they absolutely did. They moved in silence, too. They slipped under the radar with all the moves they made, and they got a lot better at practice. They just kept their nose to the grindstone. But the utter implosion of Los Angeles continues with the signing of Baker Mayfield. At the time of this recording, Baker Mayfield has been signed off of waivers and has gone to the Los Angeles Rams in the absence of Matt Stafford.
Oh, man. Oh, my God. This is rough for both teams.
Rough day.
Oh, man, but that's a whole other can of worms that we'll get into it at another point in time. But let's move on to probably what was the game of the week in the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals, 27-24, the same score as the AFC Championship this year, and that makes three times in a row this year alone the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs.
Yep. And again, don't sleep. They're both playoff contending teams, and we could just see them. That could be the divisional round. That could be the AFC Championship. And let me tell you, if Cincy catches them again, catches them bleeding, they could just get on top and roll. And if we see Cincy in a second consecutive Super Bowl,
well, we shall see. We shall see. But that loss to Kansas City now brings Buffalo in the top of the AFC. But let's move on to another AFC matchup, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders getting it done 27-20, but the score, it wasn't really that close. It was all Raiders all day.
Yeah, the Chargers are really pedestrian. Like, not pedestrian, but they are mortal. We saw them as pretty magical last year, but you can really tell there's some issues there.
Well, they're playing hurt. They have a lot of people hurt.
For sure they're playing hurt, but everyone, at this point in time, everyone's playing hurt. Everyone's playing, man. It's the teams that we were saying about it earlier this year. The teams that get healthy now are the ones that stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Getting hurt in the back end of the season is detrimental. And that's what we're seeing. Vegas is kind of getting is the healthier team on the field. We kind of said that last week with this game as well.
Yeah. But hey, Vegas, they're on a nice win streak right now. And so it's going to be, they have the Los Angeles Rams this upcoming Thursday. So we'll talk about that when we make our picks. But hey, Raiders on a soft win streak right now. It's good. It's nice to see. But let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys and the Indianapolis Colts in the Sunday night primetime. And the Dallas Cowboys beat the Colts 54-19. My God.
Ouch. Yeah.
The Cowboys scored 33 points in the fourth quarter alone.
Oh, my God. At that point, though, it's like you can tell Indy has their backups in. They're just playing to play it out. Like, you're running the score up now. I guess good showing for Dallas, but do it against a team that isn't, again, in shambles.
Yeah.
If you could put 60 points up of, let's say, you go up against the Giants, you put 60 points up. That defense is...
Well, they put 40 on the Vikings a couple weeks ago.
That's a more impressive number. 40 on the Vikings is very impressive. 54 on Indy is kind of muted.
All right, 54 points.
54 points is 54 points.
That ain't nothing to smirk at.
It ain't nothing to look at, but it's a score run.
Oh, man. But, hey, Cowboys are looking good so far. Good. But let's move on to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers taking on the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football in another Tom Brady comeback. With 5 minutes in the game, he scores 2 touchdowns. Tampa Bay wins 17-16.
Yeah, I think I saw that was his 44th come from behind victory in the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter, yep.
It's just you can't give him a minute left in the fourth quarter down by 6.
5 minutes down by 2 touchdowns.
Can't do it.
It's too much time. That's the thing with Brady is like until the time it's 0-0-0-0 across the board and you have the lead. That's the only time you can be comfortable.
Right. When the game is over. Until then, there is too much time on the clock. He can just do it. Doesn't matter who he has.
And he scored the final touchdown with 3 seconds left.
That's what I'm saying. You can't do that. And understandably so, you think 3 seconds, there's nothing he can do? There's everything that man can do.
I will say, shout out to Andy Dalton. He actually looked like he had his best game in a long time. He made some incredible throws that game, and a lot of people won't really, unless you watch the highlights and watch that game, but he made some great throws that game, and I want to give a shout out to him.
All right. I respect that. I have to check the highlights out. I didn't get to check the highlights, but okay, I respect that.
Absolutely. So
we have no love lost for Andy Dalton here.
Yeah, but he ain't a Bengal anymore, but he's still got that Bengal stink to him. So
don't get that Bengal stink to him.
Fuck the Bengals. But anyway, let's move on because we have our AFC rivalry week. The Steelers and the Ravens. Woo! Man, we live for this week.
Oh, man.
Steelers and Ravens rivalry. It is unmatched. It's the best in the NFL, and we love it. Love it.
It's always, every year, the games are always more and more important, and it's just so fitting to fit the bill that both of our games are in back half of the year. We've been saying that since the beginning of this year off air that, of course, they start a set back end of the year.
Yeah, like the Steelers and the Ravens, typically we just play in the second half of the year. December, January, sometime November, just, when the games are meaningful. And right now, this matchup coming up is just going to be so crucial for both teams for different reasons. Because right now, the Steelers are they're on an upward trajectory. They're winning. They won 2 games, and was competitive against the Bengals. Before that, you also beat the Browns too. So you beat the Browns, lose to the Bengals, then you beat Indy, and then you beat Atlanta.
You also beat the Saints.
Yeah, that was a couple weeks ago. That was before the Browns. Yeah. So, but you guys are winning some games. You guys are winning some good games, and for the Ravens, it's like we lost games that we shouldn't have. We probably even shouldn't have won that game last week, being that Lamar was hurt, but being that the Broncos' offense is so pedestrian and the 11th worst offense since the year 2000.
Jesus.
They averaged 10.4 points per game.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
It's horrible. Thank God with Lamar getting hurt, Tyler Huntley, all he had to do was just have a 91-yard drive at the end to win the game.
Right.
And that's all it takes. It's just one good drive. But man, this game is so different than what we thought it was going to be earlier in the year. Granted, even what we thought last week, where it's like, oh, the Ravens and the Steelers, where it's like, oh, but Lamar's in. But him being hurt,
it just throws a monkey wrench in it.
It tilts the field.
Oh yeah, it does. Especially people have heard me on this podcast talk about the Steelers. All I wanted was progress. And going into the bye week, we were in shambles. We had 14 turnovers going into our bye week. Since our bye week, we have 0. We are second in the league in defensive interceptions, behind only Philadelphia by 1. It's 14 interceptions to 13 interceptions. Alex Highsmith, 10 sacks. Kenny Pickett, 4 games without an interception. I remember when I called out the first game that he had a clean game. I said, give me more. 4 games in a row, I will take it. I'll take it all day. Najee Harris, he's increasing his yards per carry. Our offensive line is finally getting healthy. So the progress that I've seen in the past couple of weeks, I have no complaints. We stood toe-to-toe with the Bengals that everyone counted us out, thought we were going to be blown out, which, respectively so, the Bengals are nasty. But we took them the limit and took them everything they had to beat us.
I know in that game that you're referring to, that for those of you listening that were not able to watch that game, I believe that was the same week that the Cowboys were playing the Vikings, and the Cowboys were clobbering them. That in the third quarter they switched over to the Steelers-Bengals game in the third quarter. So, but by that time, that was when I was able to watch that game, and then I went back and I watched the highlights. And it was a tale of two halves, where the first half was highly competitive between both. It was a very nip-tuck ball game where it was close. The score was close. But come the second half, that's when the Bengals separated. And in the third quarter, they went up 2 possessions. And it took a while for the Steelers to get back to in range because then it was 30-23, and then it was 37-23 by the time the Bengals hit 37.
Right.
It was just over, and Steelers got that one last touchdown. So, but to have a good half against a Super Bowl caliber team, that says a lot.
Right, especially with a young rebuilding team. And again, I'm going to give Kenny Pickett another shout out. He had 265 yards passing that game.
Pretty good.
With a touchdown.
Pretty solid.
So pretty sure that was our first recorded touchdown of the season. And it was a 2 or 3 yard touchdown to Najee Harris. But
still counts.
It happened. It happened. But he gets it done with his legs as well, with almost 300 yards rushing.
Yeah.
So he compensates.
Yeah.
So
he has his total yardage right now. He has just about 2,000 total yardage between passing and running. 4 touchdowns passing to 8 interceptions. But like you said, he hasn't thrown a pick in 4 games. And he also has 3 rushing touchdowns. So 2,000 yards, and he's just under 500 when it comes to touchdown and interception ratio. Total yardage and total touchdowns. So he's playing pretty well. As for a rookie, he's playing very well. And the fact that you play clean consistently, that's what's going to win you games. Because turnovers are absolutely killer for rookies.
yes.
Absolutely killer. I do think that the Ravens defense, we have had a turnover in every game so far this year.
Okay.
So
That's very poetic.
We're going to probably get a turnover. It may not be an interception. Maybe it's a fumble or something like that. But it's going to happen. But the same can be said for the Steelers. The Steelers are a very opportunistic team. They have 23 sacks as a team to 14 interceptions, as you referred to earlier. And it's funny because now with the absence of Lamar, it seems that the field has tilted, but yet it seems that we're a little bit more even.
Yeah.
Because now we go into this game, the Ravens, we go into this game with Tyler Huntley as our backup quarterback. Now, Tyler Huntley, for those of you who don't know, he has been our backup quarterback to Lamar for 3 seasons now. He was drafted in 2020, all with the Ravens. He played a good amount of last year when Lamar got hurt.
And he was sick and whatnot.
Well, yeah.
That was 2020.
Yeah. With COVID and stuff, he played a couple games when Lamar got COVID. And he played, again, the back half of the year after Lamar got hurt. And now he's going to have to play. He's going to have to do his job again. He's going to have to play some clean games. I got to say the best game I saw from him was that he went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers last year. And
I remember that game.
We lost 31-30. And we basically scored the game-winning touchdown. But we went for a 2-point conversion instead of the PAT, and ultimately didn't get it. But nevertheless, that was probably the most impressive outing for Tyler Huntley. But yet, I've also seen games like the first game in his first year against the Steelers. I remember it was like a 19-16 game, and it was just so like
it was just true
neither Ben nor Tyler could really make those throws. Neither like the wide receivers were open in the secondary, and it was an ugly game. And I think this game is going to be a little bit more similar to that. This game is going to be. I don't think this is going to be a high scoring game between us.
No.
Whoever gets to 20, probably you're good. I know the Steelers, they don't average a lot of points per game. I think they average about 19 points per game.
Something like that.
But the Ravens, we average, I think it's about 24, 23 points per game, because even though we have lost a lot of games this year, our offense is not the reason why we're losing these games.
No, it's your defense in the second half.
Bingo.
That's exactly what it is. That's something that you and I have spoken out to nauseam about. This is a game of attrition. And the Ravens have gotten in a lot of trouble gassing themselves come the second half of the game. You know, they're a fast, in-your-face team. All first half, that's fine. Pittsburgh's a second-half team.
Mm-hmm.
Said that for years. We are a second-half team. If you can't go a full 4 quarters with Pittsburgh, it's going to be issues. And we've seen it time and time again. Going into these games, somehow, some way, the playing field gets leveled. And we come in and we are here versus where we were here. You know, you guys are arguable leaders of this division.
Mm-hmm.
You guys will arguably win this division. You know, depending on how your last stretch of games goes and how the last stretch with Cincy goes. You know, Cincy's the front runner to win the division. You guys are right in number 2.
Well, so far we lead the division because we have that tiebreaker over them.
Right.
But at this point in time, both the Ravens and the Bengals are 8-4.
Right. That's why I say we have to see how the rest of each other's respective seasons go.
Exactly.
You guys lose to us hypothetically. That's not a good look. No, it's definitely not a good look because, you know, again, the AFC always runs through Pittsburgh. I'm saying that too.
Well,
so
you know, it definitely tests all the people in our division. It's so great. And that's why it's so meaningful because, like I said, we're on a different trajectory at this point. We're getting injured at the wrong time. You guys are getting healthy at the right time. You guys are winning games that you're not necessarily supposed to, but you're still winning the games. And we're losing games that we're supposed to be winning. And so it just seems that we're just on the same coin, but it's just opposite. And it's going to be tough because for the Ravens, we don't play anyone with a winning record until week 18 against Cincinnati. We play you guys twice. We play the Browns another time.
We play the Chargers too?
No, we don't play the Chargers. I forget who else. But one other team and then the Bengals. But we end off in Cincinnati.
You don't play Houston, do you?
No.
Hmm.
It'll come to me.
Yeah.
It'll come to me. But we end off in Cincinnati. So it's like this game for the Ravens, if we have to just keep pace. Even, again, we have 8 wins. So that does not necessarily guarantee us a playoff spot because there are other teams that are just right there for a wild card. The Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers,
the Titans.
The Titans are going to win their division probably because they're definitely the best team in the AFC South. But hell, even the Steelers are alive for the playoff spot.
Again, having a conference where I think it's like a 90% playoff contentions, like statistical wise, we're going into the year. Out of 16 teams, 14 were playoff contention. I'm pretty sure that's still relatively true to form now, where there's only 1 or 2 teams where you can really say they're probably out, like Houston.
Well, Houston is mathematically eliminated.
Carolina is mathematically out.
Yeah, well, that's NFC.
NFC, sorry.
That's the NFC. But Houston is out. But if we take a look at the conference, let's start with our division.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bengals are probably going to make the playoffs at some point. Ravens, we're hopeful, but we have a good spot. But, we have a chance. Mm-hmm. Steelers do have a chance as well. Browns theoretically do.
Right.
They're still alive. You go to the AFC South, the Titans are going to win their division. Colts, not really. No, the Colts are done.
They're going to lose 1 or 2 more games.
The Jags, no, they're probably not going to make it either. And then you go to the AFC West. Chiefs, definitely, they're going to be in it. Chargers, probably. Raiders on the soft winning streak. They might sneak in, but it all depends on how they have as much chance as the Steelers do. Both at 5-7.
Right.
So, and then the Broncos, no. Broncos are absolutely, they're not going anywhere. And then you look at the entire AFC East could go. The Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots. So it's so highly competitive because I know for the Ravens, just some of the losses that we had earlier this year, I know that Miami losses hurts us. But also, if I look back on it, and I've been really just watching my Ravens as much as I can, our secondary, Roquan Smith has been a great addition to the defense, and since he's come, we've been winning more games than we are. But our weakness is cornerbacks, and because you and I we spoke off air, we have Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, great cornerbacks. Marcus Peters, I have my problems with. But he's a number 2. He's a number 2 cornerback. But you were right about this, and you called this out earlier on in the season. That injury to Kyle Fuller in our secondary, our quarterback, that was huge because now we're playing with not only our 3rd string cornerback, but our 4th string quarterback is hurt. So now we're playing with our 5th string quarterback.
I told you it was going to bite you.
And you were right. And you were absolutely right on that. And it's killed us. And it's specifically, I can recall it against the Jags.
Yes.
Zay Jones just absolutely tore up that poor rookie.
Poor man.
That was painful. But nevertheless, again, it goes back to the evenness of both teams because it's like Ravens have a great front 7. Good pass rush, good linebacker.
It's the second level.
It's the second level, and that's also the problem for the Steelers, too.
That is, 100%. And that's where it comes in, where you had the more athletic quarterback that could get it to those holes. That's where the playing field, it starts teetering, where it depends on which team comes out. It's not going to stay like this the entire game. It's going to do this all game. All game, it's going to be back and forth, and it's going to be a full game of attrition. It's almost tradition that these games come in between one possession. It's also almost tradition that this game comes in within 4 to 5 points.
Yeah.
So if this is a low-scoring game, it's going to be a 1 to 3 point game.
It's going to be like 19-17 or something like that. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be physical. It's always physical.
I don't even know that it's going to be ugly per se because there's not going to be a lot of turnovers. There's just going to be a lot of 3 and outs.
Yeah.
And you can't even make that to be an ugly game. Where if it was a lot of turnovers back and forth, but everyone's sticking to the middle of the field, that could be an ugly game. Where in terms of like you march down the field, you get to the red zone, stops at the red zone, have to kick a field goal. Every so often you have a touchdown here and there, but other than that, it's inside the numbers. It's 3 and outs. It's like you said, physical. That's a great game to me.
No, believe me, I agree with you. I do think that like those types of games are great. And the Steelers and Ravens, we have plenty of those. I think I say ugly in the way that like I think both offenses are not going to be that effective, and we're going to see more so poor offensive, a more poorly offensive game than a great defensive game. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to an extent.
I see it coming from the Ravens specifically. I see like with Tyler Huntley, I can just see him missing passes, and I can see the same with Kenny Pickett too, because they just.
Well, first of all, Kenny Pickett's never known this pressure.
He has not known this pressure.
He has not felt this before.
That's true. This is his first.
This is his first time out playing with Baltimore. Same thing with George Pickens. The one who's going to have...
Same thing with Kyle Hamilton.
Same thing with Kyle Hamilton. Same thing with Jalen Warren.
Linderbaum.
So the ones that are going to have to come together when it comes to both teams aside are going to be the veterans that are going to have to get all the rookies' minds right going into this game because they know what's at stake. On the Steelers side, Cam Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, Deontay Johnson on both sides of the ball. When it comes to you need to get your young guys together, and you need more so Cam Hayward because he is the captain. He's going to have to get that locker room together, get them on the same page, on point, going into this game. Because if there's someone who is head hungry, which as much as I like the guy, George Pickens, he's feisty. He got ejected. I believe it was that Bengals game at the end. He made a late hit and got ejected. He said, I had a good game. I don't care anyway. Fine. You're snippy. You didn't have as many targets as you wanted going into, I believe it was last week.
Against Atlanta.
Right. You mouthed off to a coach on the sidelines. It's on camera. That shows ambition. That shows toughness. But again, you can't let your emotions get the best of you going into this game. In this game specifically, you cannot let your emotions get to you. If it is needed for you to do this going into this game and do your job at this rate, do it. If you're only getting 1 to 2 looks, make the blocks that we know you can make. Put a cornerback on his head in the first 3 steps that you're notorious for already in this league, and I love. So do that because that's what we need from you. This is going to be a game of everyone needs to do their job to get the job done.
I think this game is going to be a more run-oriented game, for sure, run-centric game, because both teams, again, it's 2 sides of the same coin. Love to run the ball. Do it in different ways, where it's, for the Ravens, we kind of have like a running back by committee.
Yeah. We
have Kenyon Drake. Shout out to Kenyon Drake, who's actually been doing very well this year.
Kenyon Drake.
He's been doing very well for the Ravens this year. Kenyon Drake, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards is back too. And for the Steelers, they typically do it just by the singular back. This is similar to how, like typically through Najee, you put Jalen Warren in every now and again on like a second or third and short or something like that, and he'll get you like those 7 yards past, So it's different ways of doing it, but ultimately both teams want to control the line of scrimmage. This game is going to be won and lost in the trenches.
100%. This is going to be one of the most smash mouth football games that people are going to watch all year. It's just the way it is. It's always true to form this way too. It's the team that gets the push is going to get the win. And it's usually going to come down to 1 or 2 bad turnovers at the end of the game that seal it.
Yeah, it's going to be who can play the cleaner game. Right. And whoever, again, turnovers are going to be big. Those short yardage situations are going to be very crucial for both teams. Man,
and emotions are going to be huge. Emotions are going to, of course, be running high because this is one of the most respected and insane rivalries of all time.
I can just see it. Marcus Peters and George Pickens just going at one another.
But that's what we don't need. Because we are going to need George Pickens. That's what I'm saying. We're going to need
Marcus Peters might instigate it.
He knows, I'm not saying he won't because he's chippy too.
He's very chippy.
And he lets emotions get the best of him.
He does.
George Pickens is very aggressive. And George Pickens will be one of the first people ejected from this game. And that's something that we cannot have. That's what I'm saying, whereas that these captains need to reel in the young guys to turn the blockers on. You gotta stay focused. It's gonna get chippy, and even Cam Hayward's gonna do his own thing. It's gonna get the best of him at times too, but he knows how to reel it back. Mm-hmm. He needs to show these guys that have never been in this position time and place, and when to cut it off. Because before it gets taken too far, you're gonna be seen out. Because we've seen how nasty these games can get.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of different instances where someone just says something between the Ravens and Steelers, and
the bench starts moving.
And then before you know it, the bench is clear, right? And then they get onto the field. Because I remember T. Sizzle used to push a lot of buttons against the Steelers.
Hines Ward used to push.
Used to push a lot of buttons. But now, hey, it's a new regime for both of them, and obviously, it's the rivalry that was, that has been developed over the years. All the players that were in it are gone. Like, to think, Ben Roethlisberger
was the last one.
He played his last regular season game against the Ravens, won that game, got into the playoffs, and then ultimately lost to the Chiefs. But he was going to end his career with the Ravens.
Yeah, it's so fitting.
And it's so fitting because he's played against us for his whole entire career.
Years.
Yeah, for 18 years, two games a pop at least. So add a couple games in there. So he's played against the Ravens 40 times.
Yeah.
Just about.
Just about.
And so now you have a fresh quarterback.
Yeah, but you have the same cultures.
Same cultures. The cultures are established, but you have the young quarterback, right? And this is his first taste of this rivalry.
Yeah, and see, because I watch college ball, I know you don't. When it comes to pressure like this, not that a parallel isn't seen, it's just something different when it comes to Steelers and Ravens, when it comes to rivalry weeks. Mm-hmm. Understandable. I think he's going to be able to embrace it versus, of course, we're going to see for early game jitters. But when I mean that it's the same cultures, it's the last pieces of that puzzle when it comes to that rivalry. They're still on the teams, Harbaugh and Tomlin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's what it's going to be. Again, it's going to be a careers type of game for these two coaches. It's a new regime, but it's the same exact price.
I do want to talk about Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh for a bit because these guys are, I believe they're the two coaches that have gone against each other like the most
as head
coaches in the NFL history, which is just like think about that. Through all the decades in the NFL, for it to be Harbaugh and Tomlin just going against each other every year. And every game is totally different. Every game there's always something new.
Always something
new that happens in every single Ravens Steelers game. But these guys know how to they just love playing this chess match between each other.
Yeah.
And that's why these games are so close, because Harbaugh knows what Tomlin likes to do. He knows, but he also knows his blind spots. And the same can be said for Tomlin against Harbaugh. Yes. It was he knows, it's I know how to play against John Harbaugh, but I also know that he's not good in this area, and I can exploit that. And that's where, there's been people probably on both of our staffs just been watching Steelers games and Ravens games for the opposite team
Mm-hmm.
just throughout the entire year, just to get, hey, look, this is the these are the notes that we have.
It's the same thing that we talk about when it comes to like Bill Belichick having a playbook this thick for everyone in the division.
Yeah.
Tomlin and Harbaugh are the same way, but it's not for the entirety of the division because we've been the front runners for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the two of us have been front runners since early 2000s. So it's twice as thick for specifically each other. So when it comes time to play each other, they just crack open the book and they're like, what else can I add and what else can I take away? What didn't work last time? What's going to work this time?
Well, both teams are different going into each year. Every year. And so that's why it's so different. But man, I remember last year
Mm-hmm.
against the Steelers. Was it last year or the year prior? Where in Pittsburgh with Lamar, and it was a 20-19 game. We got the touchdown, but we elected to go for the 2-point conversion and did not get it because Mark Andrews couldn't make the catch.
I remember that.
And right on the goal line, it comes down to a point and a play.
Pretty sure that was T.J. Watt who made him drop that pass too, because it was at the goal line.
It was at the goal line, but no one was on him. That's the thing.
He just flat out dropped it. Then.
He just dropped it. Yeah.
Okay.
But these games are going to be so close, and it's.
I can't wait for this game. Honestly, it's going to be so much fun to watch. Two Hall of Fame coaches, with unbelievable brand new rosters. It's unfortunate that we're not getting you at full strength.
I know, and yeah,
and it's almost fitting that his comeback game, if he's out for in excess of 3 weeks, will be the next Pittsburgh Steelers Baltimore Ravens game
in Baltimore.
Yes,
but the fact that this one's in Pittsburgh, we're coming in hurt. You guys are coming in hot, and you guys are coming in clean too.
Yes.
Coming in very clean, and that's the big difference too.
Yeah,
and when ugly, I can't shake on how ugly and ineffective the Ravens' offense was last week against the Broncos. Now, granted, the Broncos' defense, they have the number 3 defense in the league right now.
Right.
And so for Tyler Huntley to get the win was good. Both John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin are going to force these offenses to there's going to be no cheap plays.
Right.
No 80-yard bombs. It's going to be, you're going to beat us if you can create an 8 to 10 play drive
for 4 quarters straight.
For 4 quarters straight, and that's it. Nothing cheap, nothing easy. It's going to come straight out the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sustain for all 4 quarters? Both of them are going to do it very well. But again, those secondary cornerbacks on both of our teams. That's going to be the real test.
Right.
I just hope that we just keep either Marcus Peters or Marlon Humphrey on George Pickens. But surprisingly, he's not the leading receiver for the Steelers. It's actually Freiermuth.
No.
He's actually the leading receiver for the Steelers.
See, and that's something that I love. But something that also it makes me upset is Deontay Johnson right now. He has the most attempts without a touchdown. He doesn't have a touchdown this year.
Oh, wow.
Right. And he has over 90-something attempts thrown to. Something. It was like 93 attempts throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a lot of catches. He's thrown to, he's not scoring. And that's been our issue offensively all year, respectively. But you see him drifting down the line when it comes to what his number and progression is going to be. George Pickens is obviously shooting for that number 1 role. Freiermuth and Pickett clearly have taken off in full stride, which I love. Najee Harris is a receiving back. Jalen Warren's also a receiving back. When neither of them are in, Benny Snell is also a receiving back. We're running almost a 3 running back head when Benny Snell wants to play, and Benny Snell can play because he's playing 3rd string. But he's still subsequent. He's okay. He's okay enough to get it done when needed. Yeah, I love the progress that we're seeing.
And you guys are progressing very well this year, and winning some good games too. And it's just crazy to think about where uh, it's just such a big mirror match because you have two Hall of Fame head coaches leading in their teams to play each other, where both teams cater to the run with lackluster passing in the offense, but an effective running game with a strong front seven and weak cornerbacks,
And strong safeties.
And strong safeties. But Marcus Williams is hurt; he's out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's not going to be playing. But we still have Chuck Clark and Kyle Hamilton, and Kyle Hamilton has actually been playing very well this year. He's definitely going to be flashing on the screen.
Yeah, but I'm also going to be watching for Make a Fist to grab his pick six.
Oh,
he's looking for a pick six this week.
He's hungry. He has 4 interceptions this year, so he's doing very well right now. See, he wants his, but Marlon wants his too.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game.
It's going to be an amazing game, and I'm totally looking forward to this week.
Got any final thoughts on this game?
Maybe I was wrong to use the term ugly. I think it's going to be
old school.
It's going to be old school. And that's the better terminology. This is going to be an old school type of game.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be entertaining to a lot of people, and that's okay. But this is the type of game that you and I like to sit down and watch.
And this is going to be it's a meaningful game,
right? And these games from here out, I said it last week. Every game in the AFC for every team is a must-win. Across the board, every team is a must-win except for the ones that are statistically out.
Mm-hmm.
That's been all year because of just how tight it has been. This is no different, but this just has a little bit more to it because it's Steelers versus the Ravens. And this, I know for a fact, it sweeps across the board when it comes to the NFL. Everyone's head turns when the Steelers and the Ravens play. It's like opening up the pit and watching the two main gladiators go at it again. It's like, here we go. Time to watch.
It's a shame that we're not on primetime either showing this year, but
such a shame.
They'll bring us back in primetime.
Maybe we'll be flexed one game.
Maybe not this year, but we will be back in primetime, and when we are, man,
can't wait.
It's gonna be great, my brother. But with that being said, are you ready to pick some games?
Yeah, let's make our picks for the week.
Yeah, let's make some picks for this week. So let's start. Let's start with the Thursday night game, the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams in LA. Who you got?
I'm gonna go Vegas based on that Baker Mayfield signing. The Rams don't know what to do anymore.
I'm gonna go with Vegas as well. They've been playing well as of late, and the Rams have they barely look like a football team at this point.
Right. They're just embarrassing. Minnesota and Detroit, who you got?
I'm going to go with Detroit in the upset. Detroit...
That'll be probably upset of the year, I'll have you know.
Detroit at home is an entirely different beast.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who they play, because it seems that whoever comes to Detroit, they play extremely well. So I'm going to go with the Lions. And because I picked the Lions, they're probably going to lose this week.
I'm going to go with Minnesota simply because they're just more fluid and they're more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit is definitely a completely different beast at home. I agree with you. That has to do with the fans. Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the league this year.
Yeah.
So I think Minnesota's going to take this one. Cleveland and Cincy. We kind of need this one.
Yeah, this is another AFC North rivalry. This one even goes back further than the Ravens and the Steelers, but it's not what it was back then. But Cleveland seems to have a number on Cincy, but I'm going to take the Bengals. I think they're riding high with that momentum over the Chiefs' win last week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals as well. Again, more so because they're the more consistent team. And as long as the Browns keep winning in spite of their quarterback, they're not going to succeed. They keep playing in spite. They need to come together and they need to start playing as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Do I even ask you?
Ravens, Steelers, who you got?
I'm just gonna split that. We're gonna move on.
He took the Ravens, by the way.
No.
So.
The Jets and the Bills.
I'm gonna take the Bills. It's tough for a division rival to sweep that said division rival, and Buffalo has now established a running game. Buffalo's winning the games that they need to now. I'm gonna go with the Bills.
You know what? I'm gonna go with the Jets on the upset. I think the absence of that long ball, not having the knockout punch, and even when he does throw it, you have some pretty sick secondary in the Jets right now. Shout out Sauce Gardner. Their front seven isn't bad either. The Williams brothers, one is a linebacker, one is a D tackle. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome to watch on the Jets defense. I think they could give that. It's now starting to show itself run game in Buffalo. I think they could give it a run for its money.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game a lot more closer to comfort than the Bills would like it to be.
Yes, and that's not what you want going into the end of the year. The Jets could just play spoiler. That's all I'm saying.
They could make the wild card.
Yes, absolutely. Dallas and Houston.
Gonna go with Dallas, man. This is the Battle of Texas right here, and both teams are just completely worlds apart.
You think Dallas is going to shoot for a 60-piece?
I think they're gonna try for it. Those cocky sons of bitches are gonna try for it.
Cowboys. Philly and the Giants.
Now this game is going to be very interesting.
Very interesting to watch.
Division rivalry, another great rivalry in the
That's
NFL.
on the rise right now too because of the young guns.
I'm gonna go with the Eagles. But again, much like with the Bills and the Jets, I think this game is going to be a lot closer to comfort, a lot more closer than the Eagles would like it to be. But I'm going to go with Philly.
I'm going to go with Philly too, and I see that happening, but not more so because they're going to be able to match with points. That defense is going to stunt Philly. They're not going to know they're going to give everything they have. That Giants defense is going to give it right back.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to send it right back, and they're going to say, try again.
Absolutely.
Jacksonville and Tennessee.
I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think after that loss against the Eagles, that really put a sour taste in their mouth. But Tennessee, they like to play a certain style. They like to play old school, as we've said before. They like to keep it low scoring, run the ball very well, and play physical football. This week, I know it was reported that they got rid of their general manager.
Yep.
So I think after seeing A.J. Brown have a career year and giving him away, they're like, we need wide receivers. And you gave away our best one.
Yeah, pretty sure he was also one of the main advocates to extend Ryan Tannehill, too.
Yeah.
So you saw what Ryan Tannehill was. You didn't see what A.J. Brown could be. See you later.
Yeah.
See you later. Kansas City and Denver.
Oh, wait, who are you going for Tennessee?
Tennessee as well. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
No, there's no chance. There's no chance for Jacksonville. Sorry.
Well, there's no chance for Denver either because I'm going with Kansas City because Denver's going to.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think this one's going to humble them. I think, honestly, this one's probably going to be a blowout.
I feel like this might be the worst loss we ever see Russell Wilson take.
I would love to see that.
Because I feel them as a team, they really need to be broken completely to start building again. And
I agree with you on that. And that may be a little rough to hear, but no,
it's a little tough love. You need to, if you're going to get beat, you need to be beaten so bad, almost like the Bengals. Mm-hmm. We beat them so bad for 20 years that now they're Super Bowl contenders. So that's kind of a reap what you sow moment. But the same thing with Denver. They need to be beaten so bad that they say never again. Because
it gives them the opportunity to self-reflect.
Correct.
And be like, okay, look, what we thought we were last year, we're clearly not that.
Right.
So what can we do to be better?
And with an ass-handing from the Super Bowl favorites, I would say at this point in the AFC, I think that could do it.
Chiefs are still my favorites in the AFC to go to the Super Bowl. So Denver, good luck to you. Ted, we're sorry about what's going to happen.
Carolina and Seattle.
I'm going to go with Seattle, man. Geno Smith's been playing very well, getting it done last week against a divisional opponent. Carolina just
Still in shambles.
Still in shambles, but feisty. But I'm going to go with Seattle.
Yeah, I have no reason to really go for Carolina. They're still in shambles. Seattle is really surprising a lot of people this year. You and I again, we had no inclination.
We were.
them to win.
I'm the first to
They
admit.
were going to go winless.
I know. I'm the first to admit that I was dead wrong on the Seahawks.
Yeah, no, I was dead wrong too. I think I had them at 1, maybe 2 wins. Just because we saw nothing in Geno Smith, and apparently Pete Carroll saw everything in him, and that's all he needed was just a little bit of support.
And you draft the right players too
at the right time.
At the right time.
That's it. Tampa and San Francisco.
Oh man,
this one could be interesting too.
I am so split on this one. With Jimmy Garoppolo hurt, it changes the whole complexion of the game. Much like the Ravens Steelers game, like the starting quarterback hurt changes the whole complexion of the game. Brock Purdy is going to be the quarterback for the 49ers in this game. Does he need to have a spectacular game? No, he just needs to distribute the ball because they still have McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and they have the number 1 defense in the league. Tampa, Brady's coming off a win and stuff, but I don't know. Who you got, man?
I'm going to go with San Francisco because of Kyle Shanahan. It's not going to be the players on the field that win this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the coaching. And I have more hope in Kyle Shanahan than I do with the coach in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady's going to do Tom Brady things if you give him the opportunity. Kyle Shanahan is going to do everything in his power to lead the men on the field to not put him in that position.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go San Francisco.
You know what? I'll go Tampa. I'll play devil's advocate here.
Oh.
And against my better judgment, I probably shouldn't. But again, maybe it's recency bias because seeing Tom Brady just do it on Monday Night Primetime.
Well, for 20 years we've seen him.
I know, so I'll go with Tampa on this one.
Okay, Miami and the Chargers. Now this game, I'm going to call this one game of the week.
This one is going to be, this one's going to be a spectacular game. This one's going to be the definition of a spectacle, where you just can't take your eyes off it because both teams match up so well against one another, and both teams are just loaded with talent, but they're not always healthy. Both teams are not always healthy, but we saw great things from both of these teams. We saw more consistently with the Dolphins and more in flashes with the Chargers. I'm going to go with Miami on this one. I just think that Miami just seems to be ready for primetime at this point in time. They just seem, and again, I still want to see that Chiefs-Dolphins matchup. I really want to see that matchup. But you know who's absolutely phenomenal in primetime? Tyreek.
Tyreek is just phenomenal. It's just what he is. He is that knockout.
He loves that primetime. In LA, too.
Oh, bright lights of LA. That the big personality that is Tyreek.
I just realized that we have 2 LA games this week, Thursday and Sunday.
Oh, shit. All right. We got 2 Thursday primetime. We got 2 primetime games.
In LA.
Yep. That's funny. And we don't get 1.
I know.
I'm going to go with Miami as well. They're just more true to form. The Chargers, like I was saying, they're more mortal than really meets the eye. They have more issues. Miami has been very consistent since the second coming of Tua. Even before then, they were hot. It would be very funny. I'm not saying if it was to be an Eagles-Dolphins Super Bowl. Now, I'm just saying this because it could just happen. It's the Battle of Alabama.
Yeah.
It's the 2 Alabama quarterbacks. Nick Saban would be sitting there, hands behind his head, like, I did that.
My boys. It very well could happen.
It could very well just happen. And final game, New England, Arizona.
Another Alabama boy, Mac Jones. Too bad he doesn't have any Super Bowl aspirations.
Not anytime soon.
I'm going to go with the Patriots. they are incredibly inconsistent this year. But at least with Arizona, they are consistently bad. So
Yeah.
I'm going to bet on New England to take this game.
I'm going to go with New England as well. They're definitely more just a better, well-rounded team. Arizona, they completely imploded this year as well. I feel like this week we're going to see a big wave of teams that get eliminated for the playoff contention this year. So the chipping board will go and probably be cut in about half.
Yep.
There you have it, guys. There's our picks. Great week of football coming up. Steelers-Ravens coming. Can't wait.
Cannot
Wait for this. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe. If you would like to do an interview, please send us your email via DM, whether it be Facebook Messenger. Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Can't wait.
We hope you guys have a wonderful week of football, and we'll catch you all next week.
That's right.